Hello, 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 everybody. Y'all know what time it is. It is time for you, me, and the Trinity's Christ connections and conversations. Y'all, we back with part two of giving it the best that I got. So we want to start off a little bit. We always do our round robin, let everybody introduce themselves. But I want to give a big shout out to Pastor Josh. It is his birthday. Woo! So we want to thank him for taking time out on his special day to come and hang out with us for just a little bit, because I might have would not have came
I wouldn't either.
on
So
my
thank
birthday.
you.
We thank you so much. So, I am your friend, your sister, your cousin, your auntie, somebody, mama, Coach Ebony Lachelle, one half of You, Me, and the Trinity. Sissy?
I am Elder Kim. I am the other half of you in the Trinity. Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
All right, Micah. Tell us who you are.
Good afternoon. I'm Micah. Just glad to be here.
CJ?
I'm CJ. Happy to be here. I'm not even really sure what I signed up for, but I'm down for a ride.
And we thank you for that.
Pastor Josh?
Hey, what's happening? What's up? This is Pastor Josh, and I'm always hippopotamus happy and peacock proud to be with my good folks and my people. So I'm honored.
Thank you.
And last but not least, a new addition to our panel. We are so excited to have. We have two Mr. Cardles.
Hey,
tonight.
my name is Tahan, and I'm just like CJ. I don't know what I signed up for. I just said yes. So, I'm here.
Well, thank y'all.
Thank you so very much. You're probably gonna be like, oh Lord, in a minute.
It's too late for that.
Oh Lord.
So this is actually part two. 2 weeks ago we had a conversation. We had Pastor Josh in the hot seat. So it was a good conversation. We didn't really necessarily get a chance to finish it. We felt like he might have needed a little backup. We might have been just a little bit too much for him. So brought the bros along to kind of give him a little bit of backup. So this week's continuation of the conversation, giving you the best that I got. What is too much in a relationship when it's not marriage? Like, do we do too much in relationships too soon? So that's what today's conversation and continuation is about. So we're just gonna jump on into this thing. I'm gonna let Ebony start it off, and then I'm gonna ride.
I want to pose that question directly to CJ. Do you think we give too much too soon in, say relationships, say you're dating, you've been with someone 3 to 4 months, they need to say, oh, I got laid off, I need $500 for my rent.
Are you doing that?
Are you doing that?
I think it depends on a lot of things. I don't think there's one answer. One, do I have the $500 to give? Because my mama always told me don't loan money that you need. So, so that's number one. But I think the other thing would be kind of like, why is she $500 short on her rent? Like, is she overspending? Was it an emergency? A lot of things come into play. So I can't just say yes or no. I think again, when you asked about like, do y'all do too much? I think some women do. I dated a woman who was trying to move me in her house in like a month, but that's not typical. That was a very thin line between love and hate type situation.
Oh, you got stalkers out here. You got the stalkers. So, my fam say he prime real out here, so he got stalkers.
Okay.
So how?
I think I'm in agreement with CJ. I think that as a regardless of what the gender is, I think that if you establish what the timeline should be before marriage, you can almost do anything and everything except the legal stuff. So if we're dating, if we've been dating for a year, 6 months or a year, and you know that, hey, this is somebody that I can spend my life with, and we're doing everything else. If if the subject was money, and said, hey, I need $500, just got laid off. You already know whether or not you should already know whether or not that person has bad spending habits. And so it should be no issue to give her that $500 if you have it. I think that as a man or a woman, if you're already doing everything else other than giving that person your name, why not? Unless you're not dating to marry.
What if she don't need the $500? What if she say, I'm getting evicted? Can I move in 3 months?
No, because it just depends. It truly depends. That if we're dating and I know that I'm going to be with her or want to be with her, then it would probably be a yes. However, if it's one of those things that I don't really have a goal of marriage with that person, then she hits me with the, hey, how about I stay with you? Yeah, I'm gonna be like, so how's your mom doing?
Go like that. Yeah, Micah, what are your thoughts?
So I kind of sort of have a twofold answer here. And the first being, and how long we've been dating again? Let's say
3 months.
So we've been dating for 3 months. I'm in agreement with Tahan and CJ. It's not a cut and dry yes for me, but it's also not a cut and dry no. I think to a certain extent, a spirit of discernment has to come in and be involved in that when you talk about money in relationships, because money is so important. It can destroy a relationship, whether it's about rent or whatever, because if I see that you have bad spending, I have some too. I'm just going to be honest. I love my shoes, so I'll buy a pair of sneakers before I buy some clothes. But and so the reality of it is we all have that one guilty pleasure or whatever and whatnot, but I don't think that's an investment that I'm willing to make right off the bat within 3 months. And I understand the situation. I understand that you just got laid off, but you should have some savings. You should have some backup. You should have some, and because these are the wheels that's turning in my mind. Why don't you have those things? Why is this so important at this particular point in time? Why aren't you planning? Because I need, just the same way that I need to be financially stable in order to be married, I need you to be financially stable as well and have some sense of financial literacy. As to the question about moving in, you absolutely positively cannot move in after 3 months. I'm a father. I have a daughter, and that's just not the image that I want to portray to her. But the other side of it is I don't want to because if we don't make it, I'm gonna put you out, and then you're gonna be homeless again. And we don't know whether we're gonna make it at 3 months or not. We don't know that. Because I found in this world of dating that it's extremely hard to find somebody that you want to be permanent with. But after 3 months, you absolutely positively cannot move into my house. It's not a thing.
Josh, we'll give you a chance to answer that one. 3 months. Can she move in? She on hard times.
No, I think Micah kind of hit the nail on the head for me. It's not a hard no, not a hard yes, and it's really contextual. But depending on, how we move into that, there's some other questions that I'm going to follow up with. So yeah, such as, like you said, if you don't have a plan B, well, why not? Because we know finances impacts relationships. So you don't have a plan B. All right. that's a whole nother conversation and a whole nother narrative we got to deal with. So I think that practically speaking, though, there's not a hard no, there's not a hard yes. It really just depends on context. So I'm in line to go with what Brother Micah said on that one.
That's fair. I think.
I
Go ahead, sister.
simply because we're putting a timeline on it, because all women want to know.
You took the words out of my mouth.
When do you know that you're dating the one? Like,
Is it?
When
Did
do
you
you-
put a
when-
timeline? A time
like,
frame
is
on
there
it?
a timeline?
Is it
Like,
too soon? Like,
Can I
go ahead, Michael.
can I attack that one first?
jump on in
Yes.
there.
So the phrase that I'm using these days is that I'm not dating for character building, I'm dating for marriage. I am beyond the character building phase. And if we're not both intently dating to marry, then there's no reason for us to date. That's the main thing. But the other side of it is you can be with somebody, and I'm just going to be completely transparent here.
Mhm.
I've been engaged before. I had known this person since the 4th grade. We had been friends for all of this time. Then we got engaged. Everything appeared to be perfectly fine. 9 months later, that engagement ended. Because you can feel like no matter how much time you put into it, you never know what's the right amount of time until you actually make it there, is what I believe. And so I'm gonna say this, and this is gonna ruin a whole lot of people, but I don't believe in the one, right? I believe in many ones, that you are literally you got to find the person that you're willing to not live without. And that could be many people, but once you actually make it to that person, that may be, for lack of a better word, the one. But I think until you find that person that you don't want to live without, it's open season, it's open season. But for me personally, it could be 3 months, it could be 4 months, because she and I have been in relationship, have been dating for like 8 months, have been in relationship for like 4 months, and then we were engaged for 9 months, and that still wasn't enough time for us to get to the altar. So it's just a reality that these things take time, because you really could believe you can know. And the key word that I said earlier is discernment, right? I ain't gonna lie, man. Like, all of that might have been flesh. All of me actually proposing to her, actually wanted to be married, actually wanted to be in a relationship. That all might have been flesh, because the discernment say there are these red flags. Discernment is going to say that there's something that's not right. This is going too fast, not comfortable, whatever the case may be. So those discernment plays a big part in being in a relationship with somebody, because if 9 times out of 10, if it doesn't feel right, look right, act right, then it probably ain't right.
Tahan, do you deal in time limits? Like, do you have to know somebody for 6 months, a year, or whatever before you can decide that this is your one?
So, taking a cue from Micah, I'm going to be transparent. So I've been married twice, divorced twice, and so both been married literally half my life. And I don't think that a time limit can really tell you whether or not someone is the one. Just being 100% transparent. I think that you can discover the one after a year. I think that you can discover the one after 20 years. It just really depends. But I think that with two people, I think it was CJ said, or Michael said that it's important to find the one that you can live without. How you know it? Honestly, I don't know. I'm 0-2. I'm 0-2. I thought I knew it both times, and being 0-2, it made me look at marriage a little different. I tried to perfect things after I said I do. And so with both situations, we were both growing. We tried to grow together before we tried to grow individually. And so we were on the same page. And then once we started trying to grow individually, it wasn't that we were both wrong. It was just then that's when the compatibility issue came up. Because she was growing to the left, I was growing to the right. And we realized that there was no common bond other than a child. So it didn't mean that neither one of us were bad people or bad for each other. I know you said, hey man, this brother been married twice. It got to be him. It probably was me. Probably is me. I don't know. But I knew enough to know that losing me for the sake of the relationship was not a good thing. And so, you know, I would rather take that proverbial L, you know, and because, you know, when you're in the church, that's the last thing that the church wants to see is somebody say, hey, I'm getting a divorce.
Again.
And then to throw, to make it even worse, I'm a minister. So, hey, you know what? You're preaching and you're a divorcee, and then I'm going to do you one better. Now I'm 2-time divorcee. You know, so I don't put, it's hard for me to put stipulations on whether or not somebody the one. I just think you're going to know it. You know, it's similar to that vision that I think it was Kevin Costner had in Field of Dreams. If you build it, they'll come. You know, so while I'm busy building up me, then I go from the extreme of this is who I am to now this is who I've built. Mm-hmm. You know, and so if you like what I've built, come on in. You know, and vice versa. You know, that's my take.
Okay,
that's good stuff.
That's good.
Josh, do you dwell in time? Like, do you have to know somebody for a certain amount of time before you can consider taking it a step further, marriage or whatever? Like,
yeah, I think that that's just good old-fashioned common sense to do that. I think that you can make some decisions prematurely that you end up reaping bad consequences for later on when you don't do your due diligence in allowing time to give you information that their words can't give you. I think oftentimes because we are so impatient to get from one stage to the next, we oftentimes look for ways to circumvent a process only to figure out that truly patience is a virtue. So that time that you take really can yield some results that being impatient just won't give you. And so, yeah, for me personally, I need to take some time, but I also understand that is subjective, right? I have a spirit of discernment, so it doesn't take me too long to determine if whether or not this person is in my life for a season or a reason. And so I think for me, it's just a matter of being disciplined enough to know which area and which place they need to be in. But I think that for anybody with good old-fashioned common sense, it takes some time, but time is certainly subjective person to person.
CJ, you want to take a stab at it? Do you deal in time? Do you have to know somebody for a set amount of time before you actually consider, long term with them?
So I think it's a little bit complicated. First, I'll say, and if there's any guys watching this, they'll probably be mad at me. But I think what Micah said is very important. Guys know from day one whether they're dating to marry or if they're dating for fun. Men are intentional, and whether you're with somebody for 3 months or 3 years, if they had no intentions of being married, they're not going to marry you. And so now with that being said, I would just say in my experience, I feel like if I live in the same city, I'm able to spend time with the woman. Like, I feel like 2 to 3 months, you kind of get a good feel for like who they are. Like if I'm unsure about you at month 3, especially at this big old age, we need to move forward. Like, cause we won't wait 6 months, a year. Like, we ain't getting no younger. Like,
oh, right. Because at this big old age.
And let me say this too, y'all. I think we in our society, I feel like we spend more time on the the quantity of time instead of the quality of time. You know what I'm saying? Like you can spend a week with somebody and gain more information about them than you can with some people who you spend 6 months with. You know what I'm saying? So I don't necessarily think it's about the quantity as much as it is about the quality. In my assessment.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But last time we asked Josh this question, so I'm gonna kind of flip it and ask you guys as well. You know how we have that saying, "Why buy the cow?" Or is it "Why buy the milk when you get the cow free?" Or "Why buy the cow?" Okay. Do you guys look at it that way? Like, okay, just backing up, and I'm backing up because y'all weren't here. So basically, Josh had kind of came for me and Ebony, right? And he kind of asked, I'm gonna tell my business. There was a juncture in time that I was engaged to someone. And in that time that I was engaged to that person, I did everything that a wife would do. I went to his house, I washed his clothes, I cooked his meals, I did everything that a wife would do. You know, on Sundays he didn't miss a meal. And I did that thinking, all right, if he well, number one, I was kind of raised that way. I grew up seeing my mama do that, so I just thought that was what I was supposed to do. And then on the flip side of that, I also did it because I was like, let me display these wifely attributes so it will, kind of make him want to, see what this good thing over here. But we didn't get married. So it's like I kind of did all of those things for naught. Is there a such thing as a young lady doing too much too soon for you?
Who going?
Okay, so I'm gonna say no, and the only reason I say no is that she should expect the same from him. Like literally, I'm first of all, I'm lactose tolerant, so it don't matter about the cow and the milk, because if you're doing the wifely duties as a girlfriend and I'm doing the husband duties as a boyfriend, then literally the only thing that's left is for us to say I do. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say I do and we join households and you be like, hey, I don't cook. We may be intimate once a month or when I feel like it, or now I got to put up with the attitude because all of this has changed. So the practice comes before you say I do. And a lot of people will say, hey, you know what? I don't want to waste that time with somebody, but you don't know you're wasting that time with them unless you fake it, say I do, and then like, you know what? I'm out the bounce. I'm just playing. Yeah, you got to get lawyers involved in the courts, or you may even now have children involved. So I would rather say, hey, you know what? We've done everything except I'm not on the on the life insurance and all of that, because at the end of the day, no one wants to be that special little friend
on the obituary.
So, but still at the end of the day, if it's meant to be, you still have to keep God in it. So if it's meant to be, you won't be that special friend, because you already know that, hey, I've got married, I got my boyfriend. He knows how to pray. He can fix stuff. He can do whatever. And he's like, hey, I got this woman. She can do everything. All we got to do is get in front of a preacher, get in front of a judge, whatever. Say I do, and go on about our business.
Micah.
All right, so it's pretty obvious based upon my reaction that I agree with Kahan. Let me say this, okay, because this is really, 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 really gonna mess up a lot of people. And I always ask this question everywhere that I go when I have this exact conversation. What biblically defines a wife or a husband? And until somebody can define that or give me a definition of that, there is no such things as wife duty, husband duty. Because if you search from cover to cover, I promise you won't find a definition in there. I've done a lot of extensive research on this because of this exact conversation. The other thing is that I want to say is, in the preaching world, we have what they call eisegesis and then we have what they call exegesis. And it's very well possible that this may be more eisegetical than it is exegetical, but I'm going to do it anyway. If the Bible says, he that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord, but then at the same time, that same Bible does not define what a wife is. Okay, stay with me because I'm going somewhere, but does not define what a wife is. If I got to find who my wife is, that means that wife may very well probably may be individual to the person. My wife may need to iron. Your wife may not need to iron. My wife may need to cook. Your wife may not need to cook. So if those things are to be true, and if we view it that way, well, your wife ain't my wife. That's the first thing. But the other side of it is, until I know that you cook, until I know that you clean, until I know that you hold those characteristics of what I would like to see in my wife, you ain't her. You can't be her. And so if I don't know, you ain't got to cook like my mama, my grandmama, or anybody like that, but it's got to be palatable. You hear me? It's got to be, listen, this is 417 right here. 417. We didn't get here from not eating, baby. We didn't make it this far from not eating. So the reality of it for me is just like Tahan said. If making it official or standing in front of a preacher, or in the state of Alabama, a notary, because y'all know how Alabama do things. Mm-hmm. If standing before a preacher or a notary in the state of Alabama, if that's what you need, that's perfectly fine. But while we're getting to that point, I need to see, because I can't marry you and then you say, well, shoot, I can't say, well, shoot, now she gonna start being a wife. Now she gonna start cooking and clean. Because once we get to the house and you don't cook, you don't clean, you don't iron, or those things that I see in my wife, now we going right back to get it annoyed. Now we going right back to get the divorce, and I ain't got time. I don't got time. You understand what I'm saying? So I need those characteristics. Now, like Tahan said, I agree 100%. If you cooking, I'm cleaning the kitchen right behind you. If your car if I'm going to get gas in my car, I'm coming right back to get your car and go fill it up too. My car need washing, I'm washing your car. My car need cleaning out. I mean, I did those things and whatnot. And the thing of it is, that's all I'm saying. You get it it's simple math. What we learned in elementary math. What you put in, then you get a return on the other side of the little grid thing. I can't remember what it's called because that was so long ago. But the reality of it is you're going to get something out of it if you put something in. And that's all I'm saying. There should be a level of reciprocity. I'm not saying be a fool and do all these things and you ain't getting nothing in return. But you ought to feel taken care of even in that dating phase. And if you don't, probably that ain't the one for you, baby.
DJ, can a woman do too much? Is there such thing as doing too much for you? But you be like,
being fairly freshly divorced, I would say from my perspective, I think when I'm dating, I'm looking for characteristics, but I think if you're doing those things because you're trying to show me that you can be a wife, that doesn't feel authentic. And so had I paid more attention to how my ex actually, like, she came to my house and washed my dishes and cooked me dinner and did all of those things. But when I went to her house, there was no food in the refrigerator. Like, her house she kept a lot of clutter. Like, she wasn't nasty. She just had a lot of clutter. But because she did all these things and she told me, oh, I take care of my man, that's how I was raised. Women are socialized to put that out there when that's not who you are. And like I say, be who you are. And if that matches with what he's looking for, that's cool. Like, I have a cousin who loves to cook. So she cooks for me all the time, but it's not because she's trying to make her wife. She just enjoys cooking, and that's what she does. If you're going to be with her, you're going to get some gravy. So, like, don't just, now I look at it as a red flag. When a woman starts doing stuff, I'm like, she's faking. She's just doing this to get to the altar, and then when she gets to the altar, she gonna flip the script.
But again, what if that's not her truth?
What you say?
What if that's not her truth? What if that really is her characteristic? Because like me, I'm gonna feed everybody. You come over here, you're gonna eat man, woman, boy, girl.
But the
I'm
thing
saying,
is, you don't have to go to, if you cook at your house regularly, you don't have to go to his house and cook him a meal and clean up his house. He know you cook at your house.
That's true. That's true. You're right.
Oh,
I
What,
want to
Micah?
piggyback real quick off of something that CJ said, because he said you're noticing characteristics versus actual behaviors, and so when I think about those things, it's also for me. If I say, hey, if I mean, because we grown, we take trips and stuff and go out of town and stay in rooms and stuff. So if I say, hey, babe, listen, I'm about to jump in the shower right quick. Can you iron my shirt or can you iron this right quick? And your response is grief and gripe. That's a characteristic. I took note of that because I think that I should be able to jump in the shower and ask my wife, hey, listen, babe, I need you to iron this for me right quick so we can, stay on time. But if I can't do that, and so it's just like you said, it's noticing characteristics more so than behaviors. Because if your response every time I ask you to do something that I think is wifely, then therefore I know you can't be it. But yeah.
Has everybody answered? Because I got a question.
I don't think Josh did, but I don't know if he answered that last time.
We still
Is there
on.
such thing as doing too much?
Yeah, I'm still sticking with I mean, I think that too much can be defined by anything that is not being done organically. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's not flowing, and we grown, we know when something is forced and contrived. You know what I'm saying? Like we know. And it feels like that. When it's not done organically, it doesn't matter what it is. Cooking, cleaning, whatever, having a talk with me. If it's not organically done, it's forced, and when it's forced, it's never really gonna be that natural kind of love that you're looking for that blossoms into something that is easy. That's so yes, there is a such thing as doing too much, but not necessarily the cooking and cleaning, because most of us, like for men, that's big for us, cooking and cleaning. But that is more stuff going on in my world than whether or not you can cook some chicken and wash my drawers. Like I wanna, it's something else deeper. So yeah, but there is a such thing as that for sure.
So how do you handle it when let's say you are feeling her, but you feel like she's doing too much? How do you curb that? Just because, Tahan, I'm 202. So I understand where you come from. But like my second husband, because I grew up, my dad was a preacher. So as I grew up, my mother was always ironing clothes. So when she went ironing clothes on Sunday morning, as I got of age, I'm ironing clothes because we got to be on time. We the family, everybody pulling up in the preacher ain't there. So when I got married the second time, it was my initial instinct to iron everybody's clothes, but he didn't want me touching his clothes. He didn't want me to iron his clothes, I was like, how am I supposed to undo what I was trained to do? So how do you redirect your significant other without hurting them? Because as we're programmed to do certain things, when we're not able to do that because we feel that is our love language, giving from us to you, how do you redirect that?
I think we do it all the time. And I think that as people in relationships, we have to look at relationships sometimes with the same lens that we look at partnerships, and in the same lens that we look at employment. If your schedule is 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, and come Monday, the CEO says, "Hey, I want everybody to start coming in at 8:30, and we're going to do 8:30 to 5:30." You're not still going to come in at 8. It's going to hurt a little bit. You're going to start coming in at 8:30 because that's the new agreement. And if you as an employee don't like that agreement, you have the choice to get another job. And so when it comes to my experience is that when it comes to relationships, we have to look at it as a partnership. And so, though you were a cooker or a cleaner or you like to iron socks and drawers, now that we're together, if I'm being honest with you, I'm like, hey, you know what? It would be nice to have drawers with no wrinkles, but it's really not. It's really not a requirement. I don't need it. And so you're like, hey, but I'm used to doing this. But you don't have to do that now. That's one thing that you can take off of your list. And so I think that as men and women enter into relationships, aka partnerships, you have to have a inventory of what you bring and what is going to be duplicated and what's needed and what's not needed.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
Nah, I think that before you even get to dealing with the tension of how to navigate that space, how about we start talking about when we're dating people or we're interested in somebody, actually laying out.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry. My bad. Actually, our expectations, right? Like we feel like it is we feel like we're being pushy and too much by when we meet somebody. We set clear expectations. So when we get to certain levels within the relationship, it's understood. This is how I move and groove. Now you have the decision as to whether or not you can get with that, and I have a decision if whether or not I want to comply. But I don't think we actually spend enough time actually having conversations with the person we're interested in on our clear expectations. We actually end up having the expectation talk months down the road, right? So we had these misunderstandings as them flared up. Now you on side of the bed singing Mary J. Blige because you feeling some type of way, and it's like, wait a minute. Day one, you should have had the conversation about clear expectations, so that because life be life, and relationships are challenging in and of itself. So when they're gonna be challenges without anything else. But then when you start throwing in, okay, I meant this. Well, I didn't mean this. Okay, but you didn't say this on the front end. Those are things that I think are really simple, to be honest. Like it may sound, I'm not trying to make it sound trivial, but it's really simple. Like when you set the clear expectation of what you do, what you don't do, what you want, what you don't want, there's very little room for any misunderstanding and difficult conversations when it comes to certain things.
I 100% agree. I once dated a girl for 2 days. The very first day was, it was great. And on the second day, she said, hey, how many kids do you have? I said, I have 2. At the time, I got a 22-year-old, 10-year-old. And she said, hey, you're a great guy, but I don't date guys with kids.
Wow.
I applauded her.
That's her right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I think that we have been conditioned to not set our expectations, because we'll either say, hey, somebody will say they're too high, somebody will say they're too low, somebody will say they're too picky, but time is something we can't get back. And so when she said, hey, I'm not interested, and I couldn't fault her. I mean, literally, I could not fault her at all, because she took the time to say, hey, though you're great, you don't meet what I'm looking for.
And big homie, let me say this, like, again, we're scared to have the expectation conversation because we feel like we're being pushy, but It's actually being clear. Like that's what it really is. It's being clear. And so instead of being clear, we will silently suffer. And then all this other stuff comes out. And you're like, wait a minute. So I did something 4 months ago, and you just now bringing it up because you've been harboring all of that because you didn't set any clear expectations from the very beginning.
So I want to jump in here and bring out a couple points. And 2 things. One Tahan said, and the other one Josh said. And it's 2 words that come in mind that can group those things together. that are very important in relationship with people, platonic or non-platonic, right? That's communication and that's boundaries. Okay. Because what he said when he says expectations, that's literally setting boundaries.
Mhm.
I'm laying it on the line of everything that I need or don't allow early on, because I want you to know whether or not you can fit into that grouping, for lack of a better word, because we don't really like to be grouped as individuals. But the other thing is effective communication, right? Effective communication, and this, because all communication ain't effective. We can communicate by yelling at each other and express it, but if we never actually listen and understand and communicate to understand, then it wasn't effective. But effective communication. But the other thing that I want to say is, and Josh brought this out as well. Let me just go ahead and say it, y'all. We have broke dating. And when I say it is broken, and how he talked about how Josh said that we set expectations too far down the road because we think that we need to understand whether we want to. I was dating this girl at one point in time, and then I initially told her, hey, listen, character building is not a thing. We're dating for marriage. I tell that to anybody that I would be dating, because I want them to run. If you need to, I want you to run right then. But the other side of it is she and I were dating, and I began to express to her, hey, listen, this is what I need. I need a person who can reassure me. I need a person I've been taken advantage of. So I need to know that you still like me. I need that. And if you can't provide that, I completely understand. And then she was like, well, that's too much. I wanted somebody that you're doing too much. I needed somebody that could be my peace and this, that, and the other. And you're stressing me. Okay, bye. It's time to go. You got to go, because I need that. And if you can't be the one to provide that, so be it. I don't have a problem with someone setting boundaries for them, their life, because the reality of it is, and I'm going to say this, I'll be done for real. The reality of it is, and people really don't think about this, but the reality of it is who Kim needs in a significant other, the person that she'll meet will not initially be that. They are going to have to grow together in a bond. And it sounds hard to hear because we Christianize it and baptize it and all this stuff and say, well, God has already prepared me for my somebody. No, God is preparing you to be who you need to be, not who they need to be for you. Because God ain't, that's not his responsibility. He's shaping you for the person that he needs you to be, and shaping him for the person that he needs him to be, so that when y'all come together, y'all can grow into one, as the Bible says, flesh of flesh, bone of bone. It's a difficult thing to hear, but we have broke the dating world. It is very selfish. It is very it's very undercutting. And the thing is, it's hard to hear. It really is. But we broke it. It's broken. And we did it. And the reality of it is, in order for us to get where we need to be, we have to undo some of these bad habits that we've been doing for so long. Like he said, suffering in silence, not communicating, just going along to get along, and actually being unhappy and unstable in these relationships.
Well, I feel like we need to pass the collection plate or something. Fry some chicken. We need to do.
I got some chicken right now. I'm finna fry as soon as we get off of here.
Well, I wanted to jump in and say, I think Tahan said something that was really important, in that this is not something that I need, so don't waste your energy on that. I think as a people, we tend to love people how we want to be loved. You know, and people talk about the 5 love languages and all that. And the thing is, if you keep ironing his clothes, trying to show him that you love him because that's how you feel love, he still ain't gonna feel loved, and you're gonna be mad because he probably not gonna be doing what you need him to do for you. Because he like, she ain't doing what I need. She just stood over there ironing. So I'm just gonna do what I do. So I think, I don't know if you can stop from hurting someone's feelings, but like, Micah said, we just have to realize that we can't just love people how we want to love people. If we have decided that we're going to be with somebody, we have to love them how they need us to love them.
That's good.
And that's
And that-
where the work comes
and
in.
that's why CJ, I say, and I'll say this, and I think I said this last time. People will say, you know, what's the most important thing in a relationship? Communication, loyalty. I say none of that. I think the most important thing in a relationship is asking the question, are they teachable? Because if they are teachable, that means they are willing to learn how to love you the way you need to be loved and not the way they want to love you, right? Because when we look at relationships that we've had that have dissolved, friendships, relationships, they dissolve because why? You're telling them this is what's bothering me, but they were unwilling to learn, okay, this is what bothers them, so let me adjust. And so as a consequence, you had to dissolve the relationship. So in a relationship that where two people are teachable, it's gonna always survive and thrive. But when somebody is no longer teachable, it can't happen. Because whether you're teachable at 7, if you're teachable at 7, you'll be teachable at 70. Because that means you have a spirit of always wanting to learn, always wanting to grow, always wanting to evolve. But if you're not teachable, it's gonna be hell to pay.
And to Pastor Josh's point, I think even with my 2 marriages, we were both teachable, but the biggest issue is neither one of us knew how to teach. We just automatically assumed that the other person would get it. And so it literally was the equivalent of being blind and being told to fix a Rubik's Cube. It don't matter how many times I turn that Rubik's Cube, because I'm blind, it all feels the same.
That was good.
And if we can't teach without making that person feel less than who they are, without making it seem like we're superior to them, then it's going to be hard for them to learn. You know,
I'm sorry. Michael made a good point when he said that the dating world is broken. I'm just glad tonight that we're kind of outnumbered as far as Ebony and I, because it gives us the opportunity to look at things from a different perspective. Okay, so when she and I both shared how we are as women, we both said the same thing. It's what we saw our mothers do. So that's just what we thought needed to be done. Listening to you guys, y'all are like, that don't even really matter. Like, that's not wifely. Like, okay, yeah, that comes natural, but that if you don't get that, you're not gonna fall out and die because you need something deeper. We were probably taught wrong, which is probably why we're having some of the issues that we are having, because we're still trying to date the way that our mamas dated. But to be honest, it ain't really the same.
Go ahead, Michael.
Let me just jump in right quick and say something real quick. We were taught by, or in a general sense, because I'm almost positive I'm the youngest in the group, but in a general sense, we were taught by people or by women who didn't have, and I'm being very, very hesitant when I say this, but who didn't have any other options. They didn't work. We're in a different generation where women are working more than men. Okay. Women are proving to be more. On the last election of judges in Jefferson County, I mean, I don't know how many. I mean, I know Kim is in Montgomery, Ebony's in Dothan, but in Jefferson County, out of the seats that were elected, 9 of them were women and all of them were Black. Okay, so women are really becoming more and more successful. So they don't really have the time to raise families like women that taught us those things or that taught you those things. But one thing, my parents divorced when I was 12 years old. But one thing that my mom always taught me, she said, I'm not going to do your laundry. I'm not going to wash your clothes. I'm not going to cook. I'm going to teach you to do those things for yourself so you don't ever have to depend on a woman to survive. And to this day, I can iron, I can cook. And my sister, this is the honest God truth. The folk at my job think I'm their personal chef, and my sisters keep pushing me to open a food truck. But the reality of it is yes, those things are good, but they don't really sustain and uphold a relationship like they used to, because you got to go to work and you tired when you get home. So if I pick up some takeout on the way home and we work together to get the kids bathed and put into bed and things like that, because it's about a team. But at the end of the day, we need to have an opportunity to decompress and to enjoy each other. And it's not necessarily that it's got to be physical or sexual, but we need an opportunity to decompress and enjoy each other at the end of the day, aside from those things that are perceived wifely duties. So for me personally, those things are a great additive, but can you actually, for lack of a better word, minister to my inner person, to my inner being, and actually draw out the best the best partner that I can be? Because the more that you minister to that inner person of me, the more that you touch that inner inside of me, that's the more that you're going to get everything else. That's how you get the quote unquote happy wife, happy life, because happy spouse, happy house. And that's just me personally.
I agree.
Amen.
And amen.
So before we go, we got Josh last week with this, and I'm gonna ask him this. We took a little poll, and we've been doing a little studying, about what's too much for a girlfriend and what's too much. So I asked my girls what's something that they are absolutely not willing to do for their boyfriend that they will do for their husband. And almost all of them said they ain't willing to give y'all no tail till y'all marry them. Are y'all okay with being in a relationship with a woman who does not want to be sexual with you until you make a wife out of her? Y'all good with that, or y'all running?
I'm 46, so at this point, I'm good with that. If it comes out initially, don't hold it up and say, "Hey, get some, I get a ring," because that shouldn't be it. Because I don't know what that getting some means once we get a ring. Your getting some could be every 90 days. Now I'm stuck. So, without sex or financial security as incentives for either party, I think that marriage should just come naturally. Like literally, almost like you just walking, and the entire concept of falling in love is falling into something you can't get out of. Hey, we just walking through the park, fell into a sinkhole, and now we just stuck. It's just us. We can't get out. And that's how I view it. Because if sex was the motivator, then it's still gonna be the motivator after you get married. But now he's looking at somebody else.
CJ, can you deal with the woman who says that she wants to be celibate until you marry her?
Funny enough, I've been praying and going through this a lot. Like, I'm actually celibate. I haven't been sexually intimate for almost a year at this point. And I don't plan to be until and if I get remarried. And the reason I say that is because I think sex makes our decision cloudy. I think once you have sex, you start to overlook all those little things that you could pay attention to, because that little thing feel good. Like, I could deal with it. It don't matter that, like, I guess she cooked a hot dog, so that's enough, I'm just speaking from personal experience. I feel like once you cross the sex line, my vision is cloudy. I can't see that person for who they are. So I need to know that I am attracted to you. I love you. I want to be with you for who you are at your core. Because at some point, like, sex cannot sustain a marriage. Definitely don't keep the lights on.
And it does not.
Micah, you staying or you going if she comes to you and tell you she's celibate?
Well, I'm gonna just go ahead and say I'm probably gonna be a descendant of one. But and y'all, here's the sentiments of my heart when I say this. I have never walked up to a girl or woman and said, "Dang, you look like you got a personality, a great personality." I've never done it. And this is just me personally. I'm okay with waiting. Um, I'm okay with waiting a period of time. But I'm a physical person. And I know Micah. And Micah likes physicalness that could be considered quote unquote soft things. And we'll just use that terminology. And so, with that being the case, soft things lead to, let's not use that analogy. Soft things, listen, let's go. I mean, and then here's the thing. I tell people this all the time. This is just me and my perspective. I have walked up to several women and said, "Hey, ma'am, you're extremely beautiful. I'd like to go out with you." That's not a sexual gesture, but let's just be honest. I like a social scene. I'll have a cigar. I'll have a drink. And, it's a natural, for me, it's just a natural thing. I would give it a try. And if it became too much, I would say to you, "Hey, listen, this is not something that I could go long term on. And let's have a conversation about it. If you feel that adamant about it, I'm just gonna be transparent with you and say, hey, listen, it's not for me." But I would at least give it a try. But I'm just gonna honestly say that I'm a physical person and I love being physical. And that's just me personally. I love a good kiss. I do. That's me. I do. I am not gonna lie. I love hugging and rubbing and squeezing and whatever. Y'all get where I'm
We
going
get
with
it.
this. I'm just being honest.
we get it.
Never walked up to no man and be like, "Man, sir, you gotta listen." I'm gonna mess with Ebony on this one because he made that post the other day telling me if you got a beard and you got a job, that ain't nothing but physical. That ain't got nothing to do with no personality, no intellect, no financial stability. That is solely physical. Y'all out here, what's the word that I'm looking for? You ain't gonna capitalize on me like that.
Not capitalize.
Not
There's
capital.
nothing wrong with looking. Don't nobody want.
I mean,
ain't attracted to.
But no, I'm being funny. I'm just messing with Ebony. Being funny.
my friends was looking. They like to see the men with beards, and everybody know I love a good beard.
You can make it flowery and dress it up.
Oh, well, we have had a time. We have had a time this evening. We thank you all for joining us, and we thank you to Tahan, our newest panel member. We thank you for joining our, as I like to call it, our good Christian shenanigans, because we get into some things. But yeah, we definitely like to create atmospheres for non-judgmental conversation. We really do thank you all for coming on and sharing your minds, your thoughts, your hearts, because it's not always easy things to do, as many of us are either clergy or very active lay. So it's hard to get out and really show your hearts, and we really do appreciate that. So with that, this has been. Oh wait, and again, woo woo! Happy birthday, Pastor Josh. This has been You, Me, and the Trinity's Christ Connections and Conversations. We love y'all, and good
have
night.
a good week.